Hello folks, I'm Alex, this is Alex Unabridged, and today it's time to look at what's top of the trash pile and bottom of the garbage bin for my week 1 reading for Garbaugust. So welcome back to the channel if that is the case. Yes, Garbaugust is in full swing, and I thought that I would do a little video each week wrapping up what I'd read and looking at the best and the worst of the trashy reads that I've got through whilst we go through this month of glorious trash. So week 1 was anything goes, literally anything. And I got through 5 things. So I'm going to go through those today from best to worst and tell you what I thought, basically. The Trash Pandas are also back. For those who have watched some of my previous Garbaugust content from previous years, you'll know that I use a Trash Panda award system for how trashy a book is, not necessarily how good it is or how bad it is, but how trashy it is. So a quick reminder of the protocols on that award system. Bronze Trash Pandas are for books that are just a bit trashy, just into the trashiness. Silver Trash Pandas are awarded to books that are a good solid level of trashiness, and Gold Trash Pandas are awarded to those books that are uber trash. So I'll let you know which Trash Panda I have awarded to each book, as well as an overall rating for them. So let's start at the top of the trash pile then with my favourite book from week 1, and that was Wasteland Warlords number 2 by James Hunter and Eden Hudson. This is a lit RPG series set in a post-apocalyptic America where a game world has bled through into the real world. And our band of bonkers characters are travelling around in infested zones, as they call it, where the game was bled through, kind of fighting monsters and dungeon bosses for loot and new powers and things like that. I loved the first one. I thought the first one was great, it was really enjoyable, and the second one is just as enjoyable, I have to say. Still bonkers. I'm giving this a Silver Trash Panda award. It's definitely solid trashiness. It has a redneck, jort-wearing, chainsaw-wielding character in it with a mecha raccoon, a robotic raccoon, as a pet. But yeah, it's all quite bonkers in a very charming way. We've got some great new characters coming in, as well as the ones that were established in the first one. So in addition to the mecha raccoon, we've also got a talking teacup pig who's been cursed into that form, who originally was a dragon dungeon boss, the Great Blue Worm. And they can't pronounce her actual real name, so Jo, who is the redneck character, elects to call her Bacon Bits, which I found quite amusing. You've got a former dungeon boss, now a kind of leader of a caravan, essentially a trading caravan touring group of traders, who sounds like she's straight out of a Tennessee Williams play. So the characters they're really larger than life characters. And the dungeon that they go to in this is a travelling carnival setup with all the sort of carnival games, things like that. And the game mechanics that come into this are that they're never boring or confusing. They're used really well. And I think if you like games, if you like RPGs, I think this you'll definitely get on with this fine. This one I absolutely will continue on with this series. Probably save it for other Garbaugusts. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I have given this a 7.5 out of 10 and a 3.5 stars on Storygraph. It's competently written, it's well written, it's got a great kind of game world and stuff, decent characters, You know, there's plenty in there to love, but mainly it's just bloody good fun. My enjoyment on this is very, very high. Okay, next up then, we've got The Vampire Knitting Club by Nancy Warren. This is a cozy paranormal mystery. This is the first in a series, and this was also an Audible Plus audiobook. I've given this a bronze Trash Panda. This was just a little bit trashy, certainly less trashy than Wasteland Warlords. And this follows Lucy, an American who has travelled to Oxford to visit her grandmother, who owns a knitting shop called Cardinal Wolsey's, a name that I particularly like. But when she gets to Oxford, she finds that Gran is dead, murdered, no less. Or at least Gran is actually undead, because Gran is now a vampire and is living with a group of other vampires underneath the knitting shop. And so Lucy sets out to find out who murdered Gran, because it's not the vampires, and also several other little mysteries that crop up along the way. Yeah, this was entertaining for sure. The kind of the feel of the you know, the world building and stuff like that, and certainly the setting of Oxford was very well described. I know Oxford a little bit, not really well, but I know it well enough to be able to kind of sort of say, yes, that's a well constructed setting for the book. And it's, you know, it is what it does, what it says on the tin. It is a mystery with vampires and knitting vampires, and it's an entertaining little book. My only criticism of it, I think, would be that, like, sometimes the description in it is maybe a little over-egged. There's just some stuff we don't need to know. Sometimes it's a little laborious, perhaps, in some of its in its description of day-to-day stuff. But it didn't spoil it. It didn't, by no means did it like let it down on the pace or anything like that. It was just something that I noticed, and I was just kind of like, right, yeah, okay. Don't need to know that much information, really. But as I say, it was generally well written. The characters were very kind of stock sort of characters, but they were well written enough. They were recognisable. They were likeable characters. And yeah, it kept me engaged, it kept me intrigued as to who the murderer was and what the other mysteries were, and, you know, where it was all going to go, basically. There was no romance in it. There were hints at it, but there wasn't any romance in it. But there was a sexy 500-year-old vampire in it, and so that will come in later when I talk about where all of these are going to go on the bingo board. So yeah, very enjoyable little read, very short, and reasonably well narrated. Although some of the British accents by the American narrator were a little bit erring towards the Dick Van Dyke, Mary Poppins kind of end of things. But I don't mind that, it just amuses me, to be honest. So I gave this a 6.5 out of 10 and a 3 stars on Storygraph. Yeah, I would probably read another one of these for another Garb August. Okie dokes. Next up then is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the IDW Collection, Volume 1. So yeah, this is a collection of various, quite a lot of issues actually, of the IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was done by various authors and artists. This is a kind of a new origin story, and then adventures, as you'd expect, adventures of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in New York. I didn't get through all of the issues in the collection, I'll say that now. I got probably 3/4, maybe just slightly over into it, but I didn't quite finish it off. I've given this a bronze Trash Panda, this one. So yeah, I enjoyed this in the most part. I think my main problem, and this is a me problem, not a book problem, is that I think maybe I tried to pack too many issues into a short space of time, and I think it would have been better a better experience had I spread it over a longer period of time, like not tried to get through it in just like 2 or 3 days. So I think I just kind of burnt out a little bit on it, and that's why I didn't finish it. Pacing wise, it was a bit up and down for me, but I did really enjoy the artwork, and I did really enjoy some of the new takes with it, especially compared to what I knew of the Turtles from being a kid, you know, like the cartoon show from the 80s and like the movie from the 90s, which I'll come to in a minute. But yeah, generally I did enjoy this. It's a good comic. It's a good series. I will return to it probably at some point and read more. But yeah, as I say, I think I just got to the point of burnout trying to get through so many issues at once. I've given this a 7 out of 10 and a 3-star. Did really like the artwork. It's quite loose in places, and I like that style. And yeah, the writing was solid in it. Because I didn't finish that, I didn't feel comfortable marking the square off the bingo board if I hadn't actually finished the whole collection. So instead, I went and watched the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which I haven't seen since I think probably the early 2000s. And yeah, that was very, very, very trashy and not very good, but I remember it not being great. But yeah, it was not a great movie. But it's, you know, it was a good sort of nostalgic, slightly amusing in its terribleness, sort of, you know, an hour and a half sort of entertainment. So I'm not going to complain. So then next up, we've got Confidential Detective, which is a pulpy magazine from 1960. This is absolutely a gold trash panda. In fact, I think I probably need to bring in a platinum for this. I haven't rated this because it's just an issue of a magazine. But wow, this was trashy. This was really, really trashy. It's true crime, as it says on the front cover. Every story true. Yeah, but I'm sure that's correct. But in terms of how they're told, it's very difficult to kind of believe that all of the information, certainly some of the quotes or things attributed to police, etc., are actually true. There's not a huge amount of sourcing going on here. But it's just very, very sensationalist, like you'd expect. I mean, you only have to look at the front cover to sort of see the sort of headlines that are on it. Torch slaying Hellcat. She stabbed him rather than share him. Things like that. Yeah, it is as you would expect. You know, you've got she stabbed him rather than share him story. The kind of the subtitle, if you like, or the little excerpt is, with a swift motion she drove the knife into his chest up to the handle. Then she yanked the phone from his hand and yelled to the blonde on the other end, "Listen to him moan, I killed him, you'll never see him again." So, you know, how much of it is kind of conjecture or kind of rumour, I have no idea. But the way it's written makes me think probably quite a lot. In terms of, you know, kind of quotes and things like that. You've also got a hell of a lot of kind of crime scene photos, things like that, you know, kind of dead bodies covered with sheets, that kind of stuff. It's all very, as I say, it's all very sensational. But it was quite entertaining just looking at how it was written. You know, the sort of language that was used. You know, it's very, you know, kind of, these days it almost reads like a parody of that kind of 60s Hollywood crime sort of talk. You know, you get to use a lot of like, you know, dame and doll and gal and all that kind of language is used. It's as I say, it's it's something. Another one, you know, headline wise, parade of the grave-bound redheads, things like that. Yeah, it was interesting. Okay, and then finally, and this is definitely the bottom of the trash pile, the bottom of the bin, um, and that was Ultimatum, the Marvel comic, um, by Jeff Loeb and David Finch. This is a gold trash panda. This is extremely trashy comic. And yeah, I did not like this. It should be retitled Everyone Dies, because a lot of superheroes die in this. But it was just, I mean, it is, from what I'd heard about it, I knew it caused controversy when it came out because it was hyper violent, and kind of for shock, shock factor. But I wanted to read it and see what I thought myself. And yeah, I agree. I think it is for shock factor. That's how it comes across. It is just over the top. You've got some really gross stuff in there, and I don't mind gross, but it just feels over the top. And the way it's drawn isn't my cup of tea either. As well, it's very over the top again. It's big muscles, big boobs. The writing is poor. I think that's what really lets it down, is the writing in general. I think is poor in it. It doesn't have a huge amount of atmosphere to it. Yeah, I just didn't. It was just, right, okay, that's what it is. I can see kind of why people don't like it. A lot of people don't like it. Yeah, it's not a good comic in my eyes. It doesn't really do anything other than attempt to keep raising the stakes each issue to a different level of shock and a different level of violence, things like that. So yeah, not for me, that sort of comic at all. I gave that a 3.5 out of 10. And that will go on Storygraph as a 1.5 star. So yeah, that's not for me, thank you. So there we go. That is everything that I got through for week one. So where does this leave me on my attempt to fill the entire bingo board? Well, let's have a little look, shall we? I shall pop it up on screen. So Wasteland Warlords is going to go into the weirdly specific subgenre. Lit RPGs, quite specific. The Vampire Knitting Club is going to go into the middle square, A Cozy Mystery with Cats, in honour of Alice from Alice in the Giant Bookshelf. And it's also going to go in for Sexy Vamps, because there is a sexy vamp in it, as I say. The Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, is going in the Ninja box. That's ticking off the Ninja box. Confidential Detective doesn't go in anywhere. That is part of my attempt to read something from every decade of the last 100 years. So that is the 1960s slot filled on that. Similarly, Ultimatum, I didn't read to fill a square on the bingo board, but that is covering the 2000s decade for my decades challenge. So I've got a few on there so far, not many, but that will hopefully ramp up in week two, where I've got a couple of books that will cover several squares. So a decent start, ticking them off. Need to get through a few more magazines. I didn't get through those. I didn't get through everything that I wanted to get through in week one, but I can pick those up at a different time. They're not restricted to that week only. So there we go. That is the wrap up for week one for Garb August. Thank you very much for watching, folks. Do let me know in the comments if there's anything on there that you've read that you enjoyed or didn't, or if there's anything you will be picking up now for a future Garb August, for this Garb August, for just general trashy reading. And I do hope that all of your reading and watching for Garb August is going fabulously. But from me, for now, stay trashy.